And then I realized I had absolutely nothing to say. But it was kind of cool to see him talking about, the 2021 schedule, 3 fights planned. That's that's a big undertaking.
Yeah, but that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants 3 fights, sometimes 4. I'm trying to think, did I ever have more than 3? No, I think I only ever had 3 in 1 year, but that's a good year. By the time you do 2 months in camp, you need a little bit of time off, all the rest of it. But still, anyway, Paddy the Baddy, I guess we'll stay tuned for that one. We've got a big show to get through. We've got lots and lots of awards. It is the first week in January for the Believe You Me podcast, and I guess we're going to give out some awards. So before we do that, let's just hear from our sponsors. Okay, support for the Believe You Me podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming? Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your that's powered by USB. You're forgetting about the quiet stroke technology. This bad boy's waterproof, and it comes with an LED light on it. So if you want to trim your balls in the dark, don't know why you'd want to do that. But if you do, you can do it. You can with the Manscaped 4.0. All you got to do is get yourself one of these. Okay, they're fantastic. They are. You must have seen Manscaped. They're sponsoring a lot of shows and content and things out there. Manscaped.com. The Go is the website. Go there. Manscaped.com. Manscaped. Manscaped.com, and then use the code BISPING20. You're going to get 20% off and free shipping, which will save you some more money. Manscaped.com, Bisping20 is the code. 20% off and free shipping. All right, where were we? All right, before we get into all of the awards, because you guys voted in droves, crazy amount of numbers, and people came out and cast their votes. Over 70 million people cast their votes, and we want to get it right. We have tabulated, we have tallied them, we've counted them, and we will give you your winners and our winners of the Believe You Me End of Year Awards. But there is a couple of little news stories that we're going to get to. One that has been doing the rounds, and it's kind of just fucking nonsensical, really. It's Dana White versus Jake Paul. Can you believe this? There's a sentence I never thought I'd say. It all started with Jake Paul accusing Dana White of being on cocaine. I think that's where this all started. Now, far be it from me to have to come out and defend Dana White, because I don't. But I can give my opinions on the matter, having known Dana White and worked for the UFC for 15, 16 years, and somebody that was a nightclub DJ in dance clubs for many, many years, okay? I kind of know when, I would have an inkling of when someone's on recreational drugs. And I'll just say this right now, unequivocally, I have never once, of course I'm going to say this, but thought, oh, Dana's coked out of his mind again. There he is. He doesn't know what he's doing. So Jake Paul is talking out of his fucking arse. And if that's the best he's got, it's a little bit pathetic. But still, Dana came back and said, okay, you know what? Drug test me all you want, but we're going to USAR test you. And before we get to the tape in a minute, because Jake Paul came back, he did a video, and he says, look, listen, he said, look at me, I'm a fat bitch. I'm not on steroids. Hate to break it to you, that is not how steroids typically work. You can still take steroids and not have the body of a Greek god. Do you know what I mean? Case in point, Tim Sylvia. Tim Sylvia was known for taking steroids back in the day. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Josh Barnett, not that I'm saying Josh Barnett is got a terrible physique, but he wasn't known for being ripped. You know what I mean? Just because you take steroids doesn't mean you're going to be ripped. That is nonsense. But still, Brian, roll the tape, because if anything, I'll give Jake Paul credit for his video production skills, I guess.
Are one of the most selfish, capitalistic motherfuckers that I've ever seen, and everybody else needs you, Dana. I'm the only person that doesn't need you, and I don't give a fuck about you. But all these people, all your fighters, all of them, they can't say shit because you'll just bench them. You met your maker. I'm not going to stop. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen.
I use cocaine.
The bottom line, Dana, is that you don't add health care for your fighters because you don't give a fuck about them. And you're too much of a greedy bitch to pay your minimum fighter more than $12,000 for risking their lives, which is what a janitor makes. You need to pay them $50,000, Dana. Stop avoiding my points. Are one of the most selfish, capitalistic motherfuckers that I've ever seen.
I mean, again, anytime I stick up for Dana, it's always like, oh, you're just a UFC shill and all the rest of it, which I understand why people would say that. But I am. I disagree with a lot of what Jake Paul says. Number one, there is healthcare for the fighters. So I'm not sure what tree's barking up there. Obviously, when you're done with the UFC, you don't get lifelong healthcare coverage. But if you're part of the UFC, you are taken care of. And if you injure yourself in training camp or anything like that, it's all covered. He's talking there about, again, the 12 and 12. I don't know if that is the minimum. I know it was the minimum. That might have progressed, but I'm not sure. But still, the thing is, and I hate talking about this because it's like I am defending the UFC, but I am going to defend it because... unfortunately, that is the entry level. That is the entry level, and there's an entry level to everything. In boxing, it's a lot fucking less. The big money fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, I forget, and I don't have the example on my fingertips here, but I remember at the time when the payouts came out, there were people on that fight card that were earning like $200. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So rather than coming out here and attacking Dana when he's got no intention of fighting in the UFC whatsoever. No intention of fighting in the UFC, but he's attacking their pay structure. What about your own sport? You're not a mixed martial artist. You are proclaiming to be a boxer. Defend the people in your own sport first. And then he come out, and the point of the video I wanted to get to was because he was talking about Masvidal. Because Masvidal, Dana came out and said, you're trying to fight Jorge Masvidal, who was a pay-per-view star, and then Jake Paul came out and said, no, he's not a pay-per-view star. Look at his Instagram post. Look at the last Instagram post of Jorge Masvidal got something like 5,000 or 10,000 likes. Okay, my mum Pam, this is what he said in that quote. My mother Pam gets more likes than that on her Instagram posts. Right now, exactly. I can see the confusion from you. I've got news for Jake Paul. That's not how this business works. You know what I mean? And if it did work like that, then your last fight against Tyron Woodley, which sold 65,000 pay-per-view buys, bring up Jake Paul's Instagram, if you don't mind, if we can. Bring it up, because I looked yesterday. He gets a lot of likes. He's a very popular guy on social media. He's got like 1 million likes. He's got 871,000 likes. He's got, he gets a lot of likes. But likes on Instagram do not cross over to the pay-per-view world. If they did, he would have sold 1 million pay-per-views, not 65,000. You can't see. Fucking hell, look at that picture there.
2.4 million, 1 million,
yeah,
837K.
He's getting a lot of likes on Instagram. God bless him. But that's not real world. Like when I did that grappling match against Chael Sonnen years ago, it's for YourShow.tv. I don't know if you remember when I did that. But they had Roy Jones Jr. in the main event versus the Fan, boxing somebody. They had Kurt Angle versus Rey Mysterio in a wrestling match. They had me versus Chael Sonnen and a few other names. I forget the whole lineup. They had Quinton Rampage Jackson commentating. And their business model was, look at all these people. They have huge social media followings. So if 20%, if 20% of the people that follow them on Instagram or Twitter or whatever buy the pay-per-view, it's going to sell millions and millions and millions. It sold less than 5,000. I don't know how many it sold, but it sold next to fuck all, because that's not how the real world works. And just because you have a lot of followers, they don't convert into paid customers. It's just not the way it works.
And it's like we've seen this now with Jake Paul, and he tried his hand at being a promoter, right? Like he had a percentage of the Triller thing, and he quickly left that to go and take a check from somebody else at Showtime. You know what I mean? Like the for somebody like that to come out and to question a promoter when you've never done that in the fight business is crazy to me, right? Like I have no clue what the logistics are that Dana White has to deal with every day. So for Jake Paul, somebody who did try this, right, and has failed now and or has moved on to taking a check from somebody else, it's hard for me to process it.
Well, the reality is this. If that did sell 65,000 pay-per-view buys, and we're moving on in just a second to something more fun in the end of the year award shows, and we'll have a laugh, but this is, it's all over the place. It was all over social media yesterday. If, and by all accounts it is accurate, 65,000 pay-per-view buys. If that's true, as I say, it is, and they both got paid multiple $1 million each, which by all accounts is what they both got paid, right? That fight lost money. Simple as that. When you factor in all the staff that they have, all the officials, all the flights, everything that goes into it, the arena rental, everything that goes into making that possible. And you only sell 65,000, and then you factor in all the fighters' purses. That event lost money. And if you continue to put on events that lose money, then what happens to the business? Well, the business goes fucking under. Okay, so while fighter pay is always a contentious topic, and it is always rising in the UFC, and there's many people, myself included, that have done really well out the UFC. If they followed their business model, there'd be over 500 fucking fighters that would have nowhere to fight because they would go out of business. And it's as simple as that. It is pure economics. So anyway, whatever. It just kind of gets me how Jake Paul's just pretending that he's the savior to the fight game. It's his fight to fight. He's just trying to get fucking his name out there. He's just trying to go head to head with Dana White because he's going to be good for clicks, good for his profile. And certain people, they're going to think, oh, he's fighting the good fight. He's doing this for us. He's not. He's doing it for himself. And hey, God bless him. We're all trying to get ahead in the world, but that's his angle. I don't think it's a very good one.
Well, another thing to that angle, though, is like the sheer negotiating power, right? Like if you process what that would mean, for the UFC to bump up from, 12,000 to 50,000 for starting fighter pay, that would mean Jake Paul's like he's putting his draw at, what are we talking about here? Like $100 to $300 million over the course of a year for him to fight one fight in the UFC. His draw is nowhere near that. So he knows he's negotiating from a position of like, I'm never going to get this. So it just feels like more bolstering for no reason.
Yeah. Well, as I said, he's just trying to get eyes on him. Okay. He's just trying to, I don't know what his angle is here. He's not even an MMA fighter, but he just knows that the stars, and there is there's bigger stars in the UFC than what there is in the boxing world. You know what I mean? There isn't really anyone. I mean, who's he been linked with? Tommy Fury? Tommy Fury. No wonder he's calling out fucking Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor and Jorge Masvidal. These are legit combat superstars. You know what I mean? Other than them, he's got fucking Tommy Fury, Tommy Fumbles to talk about. Do you know what I mean? You can't blame him. You can't fucking blame him. I'd be doing the same thing. Anyway, enough about that guy. Let's get into this award show. All right, so let's get to these awards now. As you can see, Harrington, when I'm looking at the list, the first one on is Fighter of the Year, and I like it. You get the Oscars, you start off with the fucking, Extra of the Year, then it's the soundtrack, and then set design and all the rest of it, and it builds and builds and builds, and before you know it, you get to the best movie of the year or whatever. But no, we're going in. We're doing things the opposite way round.
People are usually asleep by that point of the Oscars telecast, right? We're hitting them with it, boom, right at the front.
No fucking about. We're not trying to keep you hanging around and waiting, because you're all on the edge of your seats right now. I can tell. Right? It's not like there's fucking every other MMA YouTube outlet is doing this. No one else. We own the exclusive rights to end of year awards. It's not like I'm doing the exact same thing for BT Sport tomorrow. No. This is the only award show that matters. And without further ado, we present to you the Fighter of the Year. And the nominations are Namajunas, Juliana Pena, Kamaru Usman, and Charles Oliveira. We did that last week. I gave the nominations there. And the people came out and they voted in droves. And they came out for Kamaru Usman, right? That is who the people on Twitter voted for. And Namajunas 2-0, Pena 2-0, Charles Oliveira 2-0. I got to give it to Kamaru Usman as well. I agree with the people there. Usman had a sensational year. He's the pound for pound number one. And just sheerly on numbers alone, right? 3-0 against 2-0. So he was more active. the competition, meaning he defended the belt 3 times. He took out the number 1 contender 3 times. 2 of those were finishes. One of them was a great fight against Covington. I agree with that. I would say the only real challenge to him would be Charles Oliveira, simply because of the fucking year that he had and finally becoming the undisputed champion of the world. But still, I say Kamaru Usman. Harrington, the floor is yours.
So Kamaru Usman, 48% of the vote on Twitter. 42% of that vote went to Charles Oliveira. It was 100% a 2-fighter race. You nailed it, Mike. To me, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna take the opposite side. I'm gonna say Charles Oliveira. I'm gonna stick to that point. 2 of Kamaru Usman's wins were rematches that I don't think we needed to see. He won both of those pretty definitively. Yeah, Charles Oliveira overcame adversity against new challengers, and in both of his fights, he went in as the betting underdog. So, to me, Charles Oliveira, massive year for him. He's my fighter of the year.
I have to agree with Harrington on this one because, like you said, Kamaru Usman has been undefeated for how long now? Well, not undefeated. He has the one, but he's been pretty much just steamrolling people for how long?
Yeah, but you can't hold that against him.
No,
I
don't.
Beats everybody.
I don't hold it against him, but I will say that that Charles Oliveira's year has been maybe more significant in his career than any year that Kamaru Usman's had in the past.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, you can say the same thing for Juliana Pena, but we're not saying that. All right, next one. Fight of the year. And of course, coming in there, we have Holloway, Yair Rodriguez taking on Max Holloway. We have Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Costa Vettori, Volkanovski, Ortega. And the people came out and they said Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. I find it hard that any of these are going to beat that, but they are all fantastic fights. But I agree, I was there in person. The atmosphere was fucking electric. The violence on display for both men was incredible. Same with Vittoria and Costas, same with Holloway and Rodriguez. Volkanovski Ortega was incredible as well. But I think I don't know. Yeah, I think Gaethje Chandler. What do you say, Harrington?
To me, the only thing that beat it, and maybe it was just because it was 5 rounds versus 3, but Holloway versus Rodriguez. That was a war and a half. That was absolutely incredible. And at multiple times in that fight, I was wondering how either man was continuing. Great.
Yeah, no, well, see, that was the thing, Bri.
I disagree with everyone here. I think the fight of the year was Volkanovski versus Ortega. That fight was fucking ridiculous. Holy shit.
See, that's good. That's great. We have difference of opinions. You know what I mean? Fortunately, the masses agree with me. So by default, that's what we're going with. But I was going to say that all those other fights on there, they are 5 rounds. Gaethje Chandler was only 3. I don't think either man would have survived another 2 rounds, which is why I would have liked to have seen it over 5 rounds, because you probably would have got a finish. Gaethje probably would have finished Chandler had they continued at that crazy pace, but they're all worthy contenders. Unbelievable. All right, next one, knockout of the year.
Câștigă cu Hervis. Devină membru Hervis Sports Club și poți câștiga premii pentru un stil de viață activ. Get moving. Hervis.
And the contenders are the Rose head kick of Zhang, Usman knocking out Masvidal, Bahaman the spinning wheel kick of Roberts, and Yuri Prohaska with the spinning elbow attack. Masses came in, said Usman knocking out Masvidal. Same on my YouTube, I did a poll on there as well. They came back 49% on the YouTube said Usman over Masvidal. It was a great knockout. It was significant. It was defending the belt. The spectacle was on. The spotlight was on. It was the main event. It's a title fight. He knocks out Masvidal. Masvidal's only been knocked out once before in his career, a long, long time ago. So he hasn't got a propensity for getting knocked out. However, I think Rose, for me, is out of the equation. Right? I don't think she's in contention. It was a beautiful stoppage. But I think for knockout of the year, you've actually got to knock them out as opposed to it being a TKO, because Zhang Weili went down, she dropped, and then there was a few other follow shots, and then the referee stepped in. Masvidal was out. Bahamondes of Roosevelt Roberts was fucking out. And Yuri Prohaska, I'm pretty sure Reyes fell face first to the canvas.
Reyes was out before he even moved.
Yeah.
Like,
So they were knockouts. They were knockouts. I think for knockout of the year, you've got to put them to sleep, even for just a split second. I'm going to go against the grain. What are we saying? What do you think, Harrington and Bry?
Jiri.
I'm gonna say the Usman KO simply for like it was our Ali shot. You know what I mean? Like the Ali standing over Liston, Jorge Masvidal being out on Kamaru Usman's back before he hits the ground shoulder. is arguably the best still shot in MMA history.
It is a good shot. It is unbelievable. But Yuri Prohaska with the double elbow attack was pretty sick. Bahamondes with the spinning wheel kick. I mean, that was really good as well, but we have seen that before. Not that we've seen
It's only been a handful, though, right?
Oh, yeah. No, there's not endless. But right hand KOs, we've seen tons of those as well. It is a classic. Yeah, I'm going to go with Yuri. I'm going to go with Yuri for that one. My boy, Yuri Prohaska. All right, that brings us up to submission of the year. Fluffy Hernandez choking out Rodolfo Vieira, Islam's arm triangle from half guard against Drew Dober, Andre Muniz breaking Jacare's arm, and then Amanda Nunes with the mounted triangle of Megan Anderson. Boys, what say you?
I gave my vote last week on this one. Amanda Nunes with the mounted triangle was incredible.
It was good. It was good.
And how often do you see a mounted triangle?
Why did this come in there a joint, Harrington? Because there's two highlighted for the People's Choice, right?
Yeah, it is a dead heat right now, with 28.5% of the vote each going to Fluffy Hernandez choking out Rodolfo Vieira and Islam getting that triangle from half guard against Drew Dober.
The only thing, listen, Fluffy choking out Rodolfo was shocking to everybody, because if you know the sport and you know Rodolfo Vieira, he's a multiple-time jiu-jitsu world champion, and the guy's a fucking beast. When you look at him, the way that he's built and all the rest of it, he's a monster. But Fluffy weathered the storm, and then he got his submission, right? And he choked him out. But that's because Rodolfo was so tired. He was exhausted. But still, it finished the fight. Much like the way Juliana Pena did against Nunes, because she was exhausted. Again, I'm not taking away from the greatness of what Pena did that night. But for submission of the year, a guillotine, or as guillotine as you guys say, I don't know if I can sign off on a guillotine against a fucking exhausted opponent as being the best submission. Most impactful.
We had a pile of twisters last year. You cannot win with a guillotine.
Yeah. Oh, no, a pile? No, I mean, was it Bryce Mitchell?
Is there 2 or 3 twister wins last year or over the last 2 years?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
It's been a couple of years, but yeah, I think we've had like 2 in the last 2. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it was, getting into this sport, Jacare being, just the alligator, an absolute monster, somebody you never wanted to be on the ground with, for him to have his arm broken, it was just, that was mind blowing to me. You know what I mean?
Brazilian of him.
Yeah, very, very.
For bonus points, by the way, who was the first person to ever pull off
Strive for quality.
a twister in the UFC? Don't fucking Google it, Harrington. I can see you straight away. Lean forward and start typing in something off camera.
I went to do it, and then I pulled my hands back and just started rubbing them together to show.
Went, do you know?
I do not.
Was it a woman?
No, it was not a woman. No. Yeah, I. This probably sounds bad, but women are very, very flexible. I doubt a twister would work on a woman.
No, there was a female MMA fight that ended in Twister.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, just because the women are so flexible. You know what I mean? And the twist is that contorting your back.
Angela Lee.
Angela Lee, KGB Lee. No, it was the Korean Zombie versus what was he called? The fucking Leonard Garcia. Korean Zombie, Leonard Garcia.
That's how that fight ended?
Oh, yeah.
Golly.
Golly.
I do not remember that. I want to go back and watch that.
We're going to go through the next one, which is the Breakthrough Fighter of the Year. Now, a lot of people burst onto the scene this year. Breakthrough Fighter of the Year, the person that, we had Paddy the Baddy on earlier. He might be debutant of the year or newcomer of the year or whatever. Harrington decided to fucking call it. We're yet to get to it. I don't know what he did call it. But the breakthrough, the person that broke through to the masses, to the mainstream, that went from the obscurity of the undercards to the main event, taking on all comers and becoming a household name in mixed martial arts. And the contenders are Islam Makhachev, Bilal Muhammad, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane. The people came in. What was the percentage of the people that voted for Cyril Gane, Harrington?
Overwhelming. I believe it was 49% among all four entrants. So getting half the vote there.
Yeah, I would have thought Tom Aspinall. I mean, Bilal Muhammad's been around for a little bit. He has had a good year, and he finished strong, beating Wonderboy Thompson. So shout out, Bilal. Congrats. Islam, he's been in the UFC for a little bit now, right? So it's not exactly like he's been clawing away. Tom Aspinall had a fantastic year. I don't know, and I'm maybe a little biased, but let's be honest, Cyril Gane is fighting in a few weeks right down the street from where I'm sitting right now, going up against Francis Ngannou in a fight that has got a really good chance of becoming the champion. Yep, I'll go with the general consensus there. What say you, fellas?
Yes, sir. Cyril Gane, for sure. He won half of a world heavyweight championship this year.
Against Derek Lewis. Yeah, half of a world championship. There you go. Kind of a negative way of putting a great achievement.
Hey, man. I don't know what else to say about it. He won half of a championship. But that's better than I fucking got.
He won the #1 contender matchup. All right. The next in line, we have the best come from behind performance. The nominations are Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. Oh my God, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. I mean, it looked like Charles was done in that first round. Anthony Hernandez versus Rodolfo Vieira. We spoke about that before. He had a tough opening round, and he came back and got the guillotine. Clay Guida, Leonardo Santos. Fucking hell! I called that one. That was crazy. I mean, what a comeback! Because Clay Guida, the referee could have stopped that fight.
Oh yeah.
The referee could have stopped that fight. And then, of course, we have here, which is my personal winner for the year, Merab Dvalishvili taking on Marlon Moraes. I don't know if you saw that one. Merab, it was at UFC 2. Was it the last pay-per-view or the pay-per-view before? It was pretty recent. Merab, how the referee didn't step in and stop that fight is beyond me, but I'm glad that he didn't, because he turned it around and ended up getting the stoppage himself. But what a fight that was. I'm going to go against the masses. I say Merab versus Marlon Moraes was the comeback from behind performance of the year. BYM trophy winner. They're in the mail. We're sending them through. The trophies are on the way, just like mine's probably on the way from Fighters Only. You pricks, send me my fucking trophy. And I even messaged them on Twitter. I said, okay, so trophy in the mail? Nothing. Analyst of the year. Don't use my name and put it in fucking nominations if you're not going to give me the trophy when I win.
Well, I mean, you should probably just show up to the award ceremony next year. Like you're a shoo-in, right? You got the win this year. They're guaranteed if you show up next year, they're not going to not give it to you, and then they'll probably have 2 awards for you.
Better things to do with my time.
Award sucks. Where is it?
All right, so we've got a fun one here. This is the Jorge Masvidal Resurrection Award. I'm assuming you mean resurrecting one's career, like Masvidal, of course. He was known as kind of being a journeyman, if you will, which isn't a fair moniker for him. It's not a fair description of his fight career, but he really came back in style in 2016 and became the household superstar that he is now. So Clay Guida, Julio Marquez, Derek Brunson, and Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo comes in here with most of the vote. I'm going to go along with that. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I mean, 70% for Jose Aldo. I kind of created this award for him, but I mean, I will give a shout out to Derek Brunson. You know what I mean? Like that is somebody who, I had written off as a title challenger at any point. Now he is squarely, in the mix at 185.
No, he really is. He really is. I mean, Derek Brunson, fair play. That's a good shout. Clay Guida is good as well. Julio Marquez, yeah, he had a good year. But Jose Aldo, man, come on. What a
Jose
fucking
Aldo's
guy.
the only dude on there who's like really gunning for a belt.
Ariel's light
Yeah,
shine upon
no, he's that's the only thing with what you just said, Brian, is that he got his ass handed to him quite handily by EuroAion.
Sure.
He did. But anyway, moving on here to one of my personal favorite awards on here, which is the Michael Bisping Spirit Award. The contenders are Harrington. Go ahead. I can't read out my own award content.
Yeah, I don't know why you. Let me do this for the fighter that most embodies the Michael Bisping spirit.
Nice day, isn't it?
Glover Teixeira, Charles Oliveira, Juliana Pena, and Chris Curtis are your nominations. And the winner of the most important award of this show, Glover Teixeira, according to the supporters or believers. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me, no?
No, it does. It makes sense to me because Glover Teixeira's a badass and he's getting the Michael Bisping Award. I'm like, I sign off on that. Charles Oliveira, though, there would be another one. For me, it'd be between Glover and Charles all day long. To see both of those guys come through after what they've been through, the careers, the ups and downs, the losses. I mean, Charles Oliveira, I'd probably give it to Charles. I mean, because Glover, for me, was always a contender. Always highly respected.
Nice day,
You could say
isn't it?
always the bridesmaid, never the bride, which is the whole point of the award to a certain degree. But Charles Oliveira was not, he was respected, but not as much, not as universally respected as Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira was
Nice
known,
day, isn't it?
had John Jones not have been the champion, maybe Glover would have been one of the guys, you know what I'm saying? And to see him to finally do it for Glover, it's incredible. But Charles Oliveira, to come back, from being finished 8 times, I believe it is, in the UFC, and now be the undisputed champion. And even against Dustin Poirier, I don't know why, shame on me. I didn't give him much chance of beating Dustin. I just thought Dustin would be too much. I mean, yeah, I go against the masses there. I'm going to say Charles Oliveira gets my shout.
Well, I mean, the only reason that I think Juliana Pena even made this list is simply because I thought it was very cool. She was calling out Amanda Nunes pretty much from, when she got off the Ultimate Fighter, right? She was 100% ready and said she saw something in Amanda Nunes' game that she thought she could beat. And I do remember, there was for years you were talking about, let me get that shot against Anderson Silva. And you did get in there against him and you proved your point to the masses. So Juliana Pena, that was why she made the inclusion on the list. That was the only reason why I think she had a shot.
And a worthy inclusion, 100%. You can't deny Juliana Pena beating, the odds, beating everybody. Nobody, I don't just mean Nunes. Nobody gave her a fucking chance. I didn't. I thought Nunes was going to smoke her. And even the first round showed that. But it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And she finished with the belt around the waist. Well done, Juliana. But yeah, I got Charles Oliveira, but there's no right or wrong here, let's be honest. They're all done just to make it onto this list. That is an achievement in itself, Harrington. I mean, these guys, when they see this episode, they're going to be happy.
I mean, look at, the fourth entrant, Mr. Chris Curtis. I mean, this is a guy who, had nothing going on for him heading into 2021. And now 3 fights in, he's got performance bonuses out the wazoo, finishes in the UFC, and people are talking about his name. I mean, you just talk about people who, all 4 of these fighters, incredible years for them, truly embodying the Michael Bisping spirit.
No, there you go. And here's another division that truly embodies the Michael Bisping spirit. Is the hottest female fighter of the year. Oh my God, I hate doing these ones. Go on, I'll let you read these out. I mean, this is in this day and age, really, Harrington. 2021, 2022 even. Yeah, no, I'm joking, of course. I'll be honest, I don't know some of these names. There she is, of course, Macy Barber, hottest female fighter of the year award. Sorry, Brian, we'll let you put in your little piece there. Brian was what Brian didn't mention at the top of the show is that he hasn't had sleeping days because he's been editing all these little pieces.
I am shocked.
Yeah. You look like a vampire.
My screen is super bright and white. It doesn't help with my complexion.
No. You look like you are a day walker or something. But still, the nominations are Mackenzie Dern, personal friend of mine. Noah Husband, great guy. Valerie Laredo. I do believe Valerie was the winner of last year. She was
reigning defending
champion. Macy Barber, she's on there. Diana Avzaragova.
I made him put this one in so she could win.
Diana Avzaragova, I believe that's, and then Liana Joja. Have you spelled that right?
Yes. She is a UFC fighter, and I believe she is 2-0 with the promotion.
Can we see some pictures? That's what we need. We can't just sit here and go through this.
So
is this a pain in the ass for you, Brian?
Here's my pick.
That is Diana Avzaragova. I mean, listen, for me, I'm talking more. She's a good-looking lady, isn't she? Let's be honest. Why would you want to punch her in the face?
I do not. I
of all the places I want to punch her face is not one of them. Mackenzie Dern. I know Mackenzie, she's a sweetheart.
Well, so here's the thing. She's been on the show a number of times before. She's an incredible guest. I respect her as a fighter, and I truly do believe in her title aspirations. So I do think, it is a little bit rude to be putting her on the hottest fighter list. But when I don't, all the believers get upset and say, how could you not? Like, we all simp for Mackenzie Dern, and it's rude of the Believe in Me podcast not to recognize the beauty of this incredible fighter.
Offensive, some might say. You see, you're fucked if you do, you're fucked if you don't. You know what I mean? You stick them on the list and all of a sudden it's sexist. You don't put them on the list and they're being overlooked and they're like, what am I? An ugly person? No.
Very rude.
Love and respect to one and all, I say. You all get a trophy just for being on the list. There you go. Who's your pick? Let me guess. Macy Barber.
No, you know what? I mean, she's an inclusion on there simply for the meme at this point. I mean, Valerie Laredo, talk about somebody who we gave her the BYM award last year. She took it. She ran with it. I think she was the most excited of all the people who won an award last year. How could I not give it to her when she has done absolutely nothing but bless Instagram and the cage with incredible performances and looks? And
she is the populist vote.
I know how, because she's on the list.
I know how, because she's on the list. Well, listen, the people have spoken for this one. Unfortunately, Brian, so I've got to go against the grain. They've said Valerie Laredo. The people have spoken. The masses have spoken. And that's what we're going to go with. The hottest male fighter of the year is now upon us. one, Amir Khan. That's what just brought me a pause. I'm not saying he's not my cup of tea. I mean, he's definitely not my cup of tea.
A fine guy.
Still,
How could you
Paulo
say
Costa-
that? He's such a striking gentleman.
Is he?
Yeah, he's pretty hot.
Okay. God bless him. Where'd he go? Makwan Amankani, Paulo Costa, Brian Ortega, Charles Jourdain. Some interesting names on there. Brian Ortega, though, he has those smoldering eyes. You know, he's a handsome devil. He's old Brian, isn't it?
I mean, dude, this guy traded in the long flowing locks for like a, just the shaved head, came in skinhead into a fight. And it was like, man, it was a rough year in 2020. 2021, grew some of the hair back, had the fight with Alexander Volk. He knew that he had a pay-per-view to sell. He's like, I need some hair back. He got hot as hell again. And he's back on the list for 2021.
Choice of words. Handsome. He got his act together.
No.
Hot as hell.
Yeah,
Brian Ortega is not
as hell.
handsome. He's hot, dude. Brian Ortega is a hot guy, dude. He has hot guy energy fully.
Jeez Louise. Okay. All right. We got next one is the ring card of the girl.
What?
Ring card girl of the year. Pardon me.
I'm Nick Nimmin, and I'm a StreamYard user. For the last 6 years, I've been live streaming consistently to YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else on the internet that would have me. And during that time, I've had the opportunity to use pretty much all the live streaming software that's available. Once I discovered StreamYard and found how easy it is, I was sold right out of the gate.
Butchered there, but we got the same old faces on there. Brittany Palmer, Ariana Celeste, Chrissy Blair, and Carly Baker. I see Brittany Palmer was the populist vote. How many? What was the percentage on that?
It was pretty overwhelming. I feel like she is the name that people know. So that's the first one. It is the top of the list for a reason. She got 44.8% of the vote, so almost half of all votes.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, she's the most. Chrissy Blair's on there. I mean, Carly Baker's hardly ever on there these days. She really only does some of the international events, but what with COVID and whatnot, she hasn't had much chance to shine, has she? But there it is, 45%. Brian, before we move on, any thoughts on the ring card girl of the year?
Oh, Chrissy Blair for sure. I'm looking at pictures right now. She's just doing God's work, really.
That's the way you phrase it. I like it. And then, okay,
Nice day,
finally, the Luke Rockhold Conceive, Believe, and Achieve Award. And again, I struggle with this one a little bit, Harrington. Just give the premise and break it down. What constitutes a reception of the Luke Rockhold Conceive, Believe, Achieve Award? What must these nominees embody? What are the qualities that they must have? What is it that gets you on this list as a nominee, let alone a winner?
Okay, well, I mean, it's for people who conceive and believe, regardless of whether or not they can achieve, right? Like, so
the achieving is at the bottom of the totem pole, but they class themselves as a samurai. Okay, they're anything but an average bloke, and but they conceive and they believe. But the achieving part's out the window. But so on the list you have Conor McGregor, Kevin Holland, John Jones, and Dylan Dennis.
Yeah. Okay? So like, imagine Dylan Dennis, right? He sees like a guy who makes cupcakes, hanging outside of a bar, being a bouncer on the weekends. And Dylan, right? He believes that he can, beat this guy up, and he conceived the plan to do so. He just, achieved getting on TMZ, getting choked out by a baker.
Yeah, a chocolatier.
A chocolatier, I'm sorry.
If my memory serves me correctly. So, yeah, I mean, that would be my number one pick. And also for Dildo of the Year, Dickhead of the Year, Non-Achiever of the Year, burying his own Career of the Year. But we have Conor McGregor in at number one. I mean, of course, that is the people on Twitter. But why would Conor McGregor come in and receive this award?
Well, if you remember, Conor McGregor said he was going to be, back in like 2 months with his little robot leg. That still hasn't materialized. With
robot leg. I mean, come on. I put a bit. an iota of respect on his name and the injury that he went through.
Mike Bisping has 2 robot legs. How dare you?
I mean, look, I'm just saying these are the words that he was using, talking about being back stronger and better than ever, rebuilt like a machine, talking about people's wives being in his DMs, the donation that was going to be made to Dustin Poirier's foundation that never quite materialized. You know, the list goes on and on of things Conor McGregor has mentioned on social media that have not come to passing in the real world. So I think people were you know, jumping on that train when they voted for McGregor this time.
Okay, all right. I mean, I'll sign off on that. Brian, you got anything to add to this conversation?
I'm gonna say Kevin Holland should win this one. What? Why?
Kevin Holland was getting wrestled to death inside of a ring while talking to the commentary, right? Just talking shit and trying to engage with the fans while actively being wrestled to the ground and beaten into submission.
It was crazy to watch. The man was just yelling at anyone who would listen to him, trying to get some help.
It was the anti-Max Holloway.
It was crazy.
Max Holloway dodging punches.
But in his defense, he's like, he knows he couldn't stop the takedown. He's getting out of wrestling. So at that point, he's like, all I can do is to try and save face. He's like, just pretend I'm not bothered. Do you know what I mean? Because he's like, I'm clearly getting wrestle fucked here. I'm getting picked up. I'm getting put down. I'm losing this fight. But I'm not getting hurt. He's not injuring me. So fuck it. I'm just going to chat a little bit of shit. You know what I mean? Which I don't blame him for, because it is fucking annoying when you're in there and that's all they want to do and you can't stop it. You're like, for fuck's sake.
I very much appreciated the levity involved in all of that.
Yeah. No, me too. You know, you mentioned there before about Conor and this whole thing with Dustin Poirier, and I'm bringing this up. Why? I don't know, but I saw it yesterday. You're talking about the donation, right?
Right.
Turns out Dustin Poirier, I saw Charles Oliveira on Instagram. If you Google this, Brian, maybe you can find it. Charles Oliveira saying that he hasn't received a donation of Dustin Poirier. Yeah. So it's like, you know, it's the exact same thing what Conor and Dustin had. I'm surprised Conor hasn't jumped on Twitter yet. I'm sure the check is in the mail, as they say. But what do you see? Because I did see it yesterday. Can you find it?
Yeah, I'm seeing an article from 7 days ago, and then there was also YouTube videos made about it.
I got one from today from Essentially Sports. It says the money. It's quoting Charles Oliveira. The money didn't arrive yet.
Okay, I'm sure that
Dustin Poirier didn't keep his word on donation.
Right now, Godzilla's out there and he's hurting people. We don't know why.
We need Kong. The world needs him.
I can't imagine Dustin. I mean, again, benefit of the doubt, devil's avocado, all that shit. You know what I mean? I doubt Dustin's going to go out there, right? Be so vocal. What have you discovered?
I mean, Charles Oliveira is getting hate right now because of this.
Really?
So he says,
why?
I'm sure Poirier had great intention when he said that, but to tell you the truth, I really don't know if the proposed turned out to be good or bad. Right after the fight, there were so many people with bad intentions asking if I used the money or not, if I spent the money that Poirier gave me, and that really pissed me off. I've always done as much as I could since the beginning of my career, helping people with my social projects with the small amounts of money I was making. Of course, now that I'm better paid, I would be able to help more people and do so. So he's saying that, like, people are hitting him up for that money now, being like, oh, did you already spend that on yourself? You never gave the money that we know Poirier must have sent you.
And by people hitting him up, it's the slumlords of the favelas saying, hey, listen, motherfucker, we know you just got that massive donation. Where's the cash? Let's go. I doubt Dustin Poirier, you know, being so vocal about McGregor, about what happened there, being such a just generally a good dude. He's a good dude, and he takes his charity work very seriously. Good for him. God bless him. I can't imagine he's going to do that. He's not going to stiff Oliveira. It's too obvious a trap to fall in. There's got to be a reason. Who knows? just send the check. I mean, in this day and age with PayPal, you could do it instantaneous. Don't even send the check. It's all electronic wire transfer. But I'm sure I'm giving Dustin a lot of benefit of the doubt here, okay? There's two sides to every story.
Yeah, I mean, it's Christmas, and then it's, getting it to Brazil,
Right,
where,
it's a whole thing. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy the kids presents. They're little shits. They're never happy. And then it's the new year, and he's got lots of interviews, and, he's healing from the fight.
trying to set up that fourth McGregor fight. It's he's got a lot going on, man.
It's a lot. He's got the hot sauce. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you guys forgot about not wanting to send the money.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine a scenario where he doesn't send the money. But still, maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I don't think I am. I guarantee we see a story within the next couple of weeks where Charles is like, yeah, got the money. There we go. So
Has to. Especially now that we're talking about it here.
No, I mean, that's what we do. We make people's lives. We make sure charitable donations are sent through. I'm just looking at MMA Junkie here, seeing if there's any big stories that we've missed before we get off air. And let everybody... Coca would gladly sign Jake Paul to Bellator.
Oh, come on now. Come on
fuck
now.
off. Exactly.
How about this? Johnny Walker versus Jamal Hill.
Jamal.
Is that how you pronounce that? I don't know.
Man.
Have you? How many people have you met? How many times have you heard the name Jamal?
I mean...
How many times have you heard the name Jamal?
Sure, but that's why I figured, and I've only seen it spelt one way, so that's my bad on that.
Jamal.
I don't get a pronunciation guide from the UFC, unlike some people on this call.
Whoa. Don't throw me under a bus. Just
I'm not
because
throwing you under a
I
bus.
do get that, but I don't look at them. I've never once... We get files sent to us. We do, and we get an electronic recording. I have never once opened one of those emails.
I would kill for
why?
these files, by the way. I'm such a
most
nerd.
of the time, you just look at them and you go, yeah, that's clearly obvious. And then on the day before we go on air, I have the fight card in front of me, and I'll say to Brendan Fitzgerald, I'll say, now let me just check. Is this Makachev? And he goes, Makachev. I'm like, okay, good, got it, fine, thank you. Brendan Fitzgerald's my fucking go-to. Do you know what I mean? Because if there's any motherfucker on the planet that's getting that right, you better believe it's Brendan Fitzgerald.
It's like high school again. You're just making Brendan do the homework.
Yeah, well, exactly. Of course. What else? Chris Cyborg taking on Katzingano. Best of luck to Katzingano, and best of luck to Chris Cyborg there. All right, nothing too big. It's all end of the year stuff, really. Oh, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, they say, I talked about it on my YouTube, so if you want to go check that out, go see it. But apparently Ferguson tweeted that Dana said that it was the 18th or the 19th or something. Hold on, let me just click on the link here. That's the wrong link for a start. There it is. Tony Ferguson says, bitch, Michael Chandler is trying to delay the ass whooping. Tony Ferguson revealed that Michael Chandler is in the works. There's my bitch, Michael Chandler. This is Tony Ferguson. The brass Dana White relayed your message saying that you would be ready for me April/June. Forgot about May. There's a May in the middle there, but April's okay. June's okay. May? Are you fucking serious? I do not fight in May. How dare you suggest such a thing? April or June? That's the window, okay? The 30 days of May are hallowed territory for Tony Ferguson. He will not step foot in an octagon. We know this.
There's a chance that's Ramadan, and he might have converted to Islam. It could be a whole thing.
Many reasons, but still there he is. And then Michael Chandler came back and he said, I respect you. He said, there's a handful of guys in the game that I truly respect, and you're one of them. Only because of your tenure. I can be compliment. I'll beat your ass from hell. Pray for a merciful ref. We shall see if this fight happens. I mean, what a fight that would be. Did we talk about this last week? I think we did, didn't we? About Tony Ferguson, I mean.
What about Tony?
The three losses have really aged well. When you look back, Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, and Justin Gaethje. I mean, there's no shame in losing to them. But at the time, it was like, oh, Tony Ferguson's done. He's over. You know, because he lost to Justin first, and it was, it was a tough night at the office. And then he lost to Charles Oliveira. And it was like, Charles Oliveira's not a champion. Charles Oliveira's not a contender. And he just lost to Charles Oliveira. Now Charles Oliveira is the man. Do you know what I'm saying? So, Yeah. Anyway, there it is. There it is. That's the
I
show.
mean, that's such a fun fight. Can I just that's good for either man, right? Michael Chandler needs a win. Tony Ferguson needs a win. What else are we doing here?
And Chandler has lost to two people that also beat Ferguson, Gagey and Oliveira. You know what I mean? So it's not like he's a Beneil Dariush away from being Tony Ferguson.
Exactly.
That's what he is. He's a Beneil away from being a Tony.
And Beneil's busy, so yeah, go fight Tony.
Yeah. Hey, listen, great fight. Sign me up, but sign me off. That's it. That's the show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. We've got some great guests coming up in the near future. Have a fantastic year, 2022. Make some resolutions. Ignore Harrington. Ignore Brian. Right? Be the best version of you that you can be in 2022. And until Thursday, we wish you farewell, and we'll see you soon.
From the heart of New Jersey, the joint is brought to you by...
All right, so we have a very special guest in the program this week as we take a look back on an incredible year for the Ultimate Fighting Championship and look ahead to what 2022 can bring. And who better to do that with than with the man who is the lead voice for a lot of these massive moments of this past year, the head commentator for the UFC, one half of the Anik and Florian podcast dream team, and honestly, one of my favorite people in the business, Mr. Jon Anik. It has been too long, sir. How are you?
Thank you, buddy. It's good to be with you, man. It's a good time to be a UFC fan. You know, it really is. I mean, I can't think about a year more anticipated as the one that's forthcoming with all the depth that we have. So it's an exciting time. I've enjoyed the respite. Don't get me wrong. I needed a chance to reset, as I know you did and a lot of other people did. But I'm jonesing for a live event at this point, as most people are after a week or two away.
I'm glad you said that about 2022, just sort of turning the calendar and seeing what this all brings, because when we look back on like the history of the UFC, Jon, and you were there, 2016 probably has to be the most memorable and storyline driven year of all time for the UFC, because 2016 was insane with the two Conor Nate fights, UFC 200, the whole John Jones thing, Brock Lesnar coming back, MSG legalizing in New York, Conor becoming the two-division champion, and so the sale of the company. I mean, it's really hard to top that year from a news standpoint, but man, like you said, wrapping up 2021, heading into 2022, there are so many questions that are left unanswered, so many interesting things that happened that don't have a conclusion yet. In terms of like storylines that transpired and the intrigue that a UFC calendar year brings to an upcoming year, is this the number one? Well, like, where does this one rank for you?
Well, it's crazy, right? We sit here and don't even know when the February shows are going to be, right? So that's a big part of all of this. And you know, the octagon size is a whole different conversation. I promise I won't go too far down that path. It's a completely different sport, by the way, in the Apex with no fans at a little 25-footer. But we don't even know where the live events are going to be. So I think as much as there had been some luxuries and some liberties at having these events in the Apex, I think a lot of us look forward to hitting the road and going to Oklahoma City and going to New Orleans and actually being in that type of environment and allowing the athletes that chance to shine. But yeah, man, a lot of the divisions, we're going to get clarity. You know, we got a couple of interim championship situations. We have a trilogy between Figueiredo and Moreno that I think needs finality. So yeah, man, a lot to look forward to. Khamzat Chimaev and Merab Dvalishvili and the Candymen, as I like to call those two now. So a lot of big things coming up in 2022.
This might be a tough question for you to answer, or maybe not, because of all the moments that happened, all the fights you got to call, the performances you got to see. You know, you and I talked in depth about Max Holloway's performance against Calvin Kattar and where that one ranked for you in terms of overall showings inside the octagon. But when you think back about all the moments you got to call, all the crazy fights you got to be a part of, what stands out the most for you? Like, what's the story you're going to tell your grandkids someday about 2021 in the UFC?
Well, as is immortalized behind me, and we talked about Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar, right? It's hard not to lead there because it was the first UFC live event on ABC. And had it happened in any other month in 2021, it would be getting the shine that it deserves. I mean, nobody's even mentioning Holloway when it comes to his 2021. And even though it didn't hold a championship, for my money, it had the singular greatest performance that I've ever witnessed with my own eyes, right? So it was a memorable year, man. I mean, certainly when Conor McGregor fights, it feels otherworldly. And because he and Dustin Poirier had so much to solve, and I guess some of it remains a little bit unsolved, but that was a memorable part of 2021 for sure. I mean, Charles Oliveira is my fighter of the year, and seeing him break through when you think of some of the different peaks and valleys in his UFC career, I think a lot of respects for him. It was about finding the right division. Chandler Gaethje, of course, Alexander Volkanovski and T-City, on and on it goes, man, right? I mean, I say to you all the time as a friend and a colleague, like these live events run together. And I say that in probably an unflattering way, but it's hard. We turn the page so quickly. Now we get a chance to decompress. It's like, I mean, I could highlight 25, 30 guys right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Oliveira. I mean, 2021, John, was a year where Oliveira, Brandon Moreno, Glover Teixeira, and Juliana Pena became UFC world champions. Like, this is unbelievable stuff, man.
Right, and Francis Ngannou as well, who is the most terrifying power puncher that I have ever seen them lock that octagon door behind. So, yeah, I mean, when new champions emerge, I have said at long wind in the past that for me, the best part of the job is seeing somebody break through and become a UFC champion for the first time. Brandon Moreno, choking out Davison Figueiredo, Jan Blachowicz, which was probably 2020, right? Glover Teixeira at 42 damn years old, and Juliana Pena. What else can you say? Give her all the goddamn trophies, Incredible, incredible year.
Which one of those new champions sort of tugged on the heartstrings most? Like, you can make an argument for all of them, but in my eyes, like, I don't get on-site event coverage FOMO very often, but watching Brandon Moreno becoming the flyweight champion of the world in that building in Phoenix, good Lord, man, the reaction that the fans are giving him, the moment of reflection before it all kind of settled in upon him, that was one of those moments where I was like, damn, I wish I could have been in that building to watch that happen. What was like the heartstring tug championship moment for you this year?
Yeah, well, and Moreno's Mr. Congeniality, and for Mexico to have a homegrown, Mexican-born champion, it's huge. So I would hate to almost go down the lane of championing anybody else's cause than Brandon's, but I don't know, man, what Juliana Pena was able to do. I mean, I remember Rick Little showing me training footage of her years and years ago, and privately just showing me just how mean and vicious and skilled, right? Like, she finally believes in her skills. So that's what it's all about, right? I mean, a mother changing her daughter's life forever with one singular performance. So I don't know, man, it's the greatest sport in the world. Like, it really is. I mean, and that says nothing of just the sport itself, the mixing of the martial arts. We're just talking about breakthrough moments, and obviously last year there were a lot of them.
What was that like watching Juliana Pena do? Like, we saw your reaction on camera. The UFC does a great job of packaging all that stuff. But I mean, you're sitting there and you try to keep it professional. But if you're sitting at home on the couch with some buddies watching this happen, your reaction is going to be much different. So, like, what was that like to watch and try to call? Because I mean, man, that's like a Red Sox comeback from 3-0 kind of moment. Nobody saw it coming.
Well, and it came quickly in this fight too, right? I mean, she was a little bit dejected on the stool, and maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but she had to sort of be repurposed, did Juliana Pena, on the stool after round one. She didn't win round one. So, yeah, man, we're just reacting, right? I mean, Joe Rogan aptly put it, right? Professional fans, that's what we are. I'd love to see what our reaction would be if we were doing a fight companion with him in Austin, Texas. It would just be swears nonstop, right? Like, it's a crazy thing, because there's so many moments where we just want to sit back and be like, oh my God, oh man, and yet we're charged with providing historical context and the soundtrack for these moments. So I don't even remember what I said when Juliana Pena broke through. I remember saying Nunes retreats. That felt like the sort of swing moment as far as the commentary was concerned. But yeah, man, a lot of crazy moments in that booth. I can assure you we're not playing it up for the little camera in front of Joe Rogan. We are in the moment like every fan watching around the world.
Is that the biggest upset in UFC history, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so, right? I mean, I really look forward to. I think it's easier to put it in context when we see the rematch between Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena, if that makes any sense, right? But yeah, I think it is. I mean, certainly you can point to other upsets in terms of the betting line where maybe you could argue it. I still think Holly Holm against Ronda Rousey is in this class, although there were more people like Rashad Evans and others who were saying assuredly that Holly Holm was going to win before that fight happened. You had to look far and wide to find people picking Juliana Pena to win this fight. So I'm not the greatest historian in the world, despite, calling fights now for 10 years for the UFC. But yeah, if you're asking me here, late December 2021, yeah, that's the biggest upset in UFC history.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all like personal preference too, like where you were, what was going on. Like I still feel like Matt Serra beating GSP is just the way it came about. Like he was out of the UFC, was on the Ultimate Fighter comeback season. Many people felt he lost the fight to get to the title shot against GSP, and he goes in there and just bolts him in the first round. Like that to me is going to be really tough to beat, but it's nice to have Juliana Pena have that moment because now we have a discussion. This is a clear-cut discussion. Like Holm Rousey, I think people saw a lot on the scale, and the face-off. Maybe Rousey was kind of like, I don't know. It's so hard, John, in the sport to bring your A+ game all these times as a world champion. Like it's so hard to do.
Exactly. I don't know if this is a changing of the guard. I know that Juliana Pena is supremely well coached, and for all these coaches, Rick Little, Luis Claudio, everybody else to break through, it's a big deal. But Floyd Mayweather was never flat on fight night. Say what you want about when he fought Canelo Alvarez and when he strategically fought certain guys. And started slowly against Sugar Shane Mosley and even against Conor McGregor, and still always found a way on fight night. Kamaru Usman, never flat on fight night. He's been sick. He's been injured. He's been hurt in fights. You're right. You hit on something. To never be flat on fight night, it's difficult. And that's why I think we have to see the rematch before we can historically put this in proper context, because I think if Amanda Nunes comes out and dusts Juliana Pena in the rematch or beats her like 50-42 over, 25 minutes, then I think maybe we can say that was the biggest upset in UFC history. Maybe we can chalk it up to a flat night for Amanda Nunes, but I don't know, man. Amanda has been very coachable, very disciplined, very mistake-free, and for one reason or another, without taking credit away from Juliana Pena, she did not have it that night.
I think Rick Little was so pivotal in that fight. Like maybe Juliana looked dejected on the stool, and only like a few people know the true answer to that. But Rick Little was so good in that spot. He woke her right up, told her like, listen, you're doing exactly what I told you to do. Like you had a great round. And you almost saw like Juliana Pena's eyes light up. Like, you know what? You're right. And then we just saw this like completely different animal come out there. Like, I feel like Rick Little is one of those guys who just doesn't get the credit he deserves, because that was brilliant cornering. He said exactly what needed to be said. And I think we could put him almost on the James Krause level where it comes to, hey, this guy knows his fighters so well. He knows exactly what to say. That was one of those moments that I feel like isn't getting talked about enough. What Rick Little had to say to her and what changed in Juliana Pena heading into from round 1 to round 2.
I love Rick Little, and I can't sing his praises loud enough, and I feel like he's not one of these credit or attention seekers, which I certainly like. And the same can be said for Luis Claudio and these other guys. A lot of it's been about just getting her to believe in her skills. And that's what Claudio said to me on the bus ride to the airport after Juliana had broke through the day after. And yeah, man, Rick Little's awesome. I remember when he was sort of criticized back in the day because his fighters don't check leg kicks, and obviously things have changed. I don't know if his fighters still don't check leg kicks. Maybe they do. But yeah, he sticks to his guns, and obviously he believes in his athletes and his system. And for so many of these coaches, my dear friend, the General Saif Saud, all he's trying to do is produce one homegrown UFC champion, and then maybe he'll retire, And Rick Little's got a UFC champion. You can never take that away from him. That's the ultimate accomplishment. Now, Bill Belichick, maybe he is not with, a boat called 8 Rings or whatever it is, right? But it's like for all these coaches, right? You'll go home to your wife, whatever your paycheck or whatever your sacrifice has been as a mixed martial arts coach, Rick Little's got a UFC champion forever. And in many respects, I would think for him, it's like mission accomplished. We'll see,
Yes. So you mentioned Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler. That was our fight of our consensus fight of the year. And it seemed like an easy pick for a lot of people. And as great as that fight was, I think I actually picked that as like the 3rd best fight of the year. Jan Sandhagen for me was so incredible at number 2. I actually had Yuri Prochazka versus Dominic Reyes at number 1 because that fight was just pure chaos. that was one of those fights where I literally couldn't sit down because it was almost that like Ngannou Stipe first round in Boston kind of feel where I was just like, something insane is going to happen. I'm just waiting for it. It was just pure chaos the entire way. And the finish was absolutely incredible, especially knowing that Yuri was in trouble earlier in that round. But we were spoiled this year. Like it was a richly spoiled year with tremendous fights. But is Gaethje Chandler your number one, or do you see it almost similarly?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there for Yair Rodriguez and Max Holloway, but certainly that fight is going to end up in the conversation. Marab Dvalishvili and Marlon Moraes with all the back and forth of that fight for sure. But yeah, it's Gaethje Chandler for me, you know. And I also do think that there is a lean to the fourth quarter of the year. There just is, you know. And I can sit here and tell you till I'm blue in the face, the UFC 269 is my event of the year, as if anyone really cares, right? But it ain't because it was in December, you know? I mean, there were a lot of things that made that my event of the year. And what Michael Chandler, you know, fault him if you may as an MMA coach for sort of taking that approach against Justin Gaethje, but he put himself into the UFC Hall of Fame, at least in the fight wing, with that fight and that approach and that performance and that heart and that skill and everything else. So, you know, Gaethje's the man, but Chandler obviously was a very willing other side of all that.
I actually meant to ask you this question, like on a personal level, because you obviously called the card and there were some changes made because Trevor Whitman was pulling triple duty on that main card. But to start the main card off with a fight like that, a fight that everybody knew was going to be absolutely bananas. And then you have Shane Burgos and Billy Q, who put on an incredible fight of their own, but it was almost like a fan letdown because they were so into the first fight. Like the fight as a whole, like if you turn the volume down and watch Burgos and Billy Q, just like you appreciate it so much. But here in the crowd, it was like it happened in Japan. You know, you got like some claps here and there, and then people started to sort of get into it as the fight continued on into the third round. But do you, as a broadcaster, would you prefer it if the Chandler Gaethje type fights kick off all these main cards? You put the banger right off the bat, or does that not matter to you?
Well, I think Justin Gaethje needs to fight in the main event, right? I mean, let's be honest. Right? I mean, he's a headlining fighter. But no, I mean, I don't ask a lot. I just want Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, if they're watching, to not have it be 15 fights in back-to-back weeks, because that for me is 60 athletes plus maybe others if there are short notice replacements and things like that. So for me, bout order is the least of my concerns, you know, unless there are late changes that really interrupt our format and our flow and things like that. But for me, the real challenge is just the volume of the athletes. But I'm not thinking about the crowd, or, you know, I might provide the context of the crowd not giving that fight what it deserved because everybody's, you know, smoking a joint in the bathroom or catching a breather, whatever they're doing after Chandler Gaethje. But yeah, can we just do 12 or 13 and not 15 fights, Michael? Heck, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a conversation we have all the time. Like, even if you do, you know, 12, 13, it's fine. I think 12 is kind of like the sweet spot. Pay-per-view nights, like, if you want to do 15, that's fine, because we're all going to be, the main card starts at the same time every single time. But if you want to start things at 6 or 6:30, that's cool. But the next week to do the same thing is kind of tough. One idea that we think of is, like, instead of doing like a 15 fight night on a Saturday, let's do like an 8-fight Friday night card, or like mix it up a little bit. Like, let's implant some flags on some different days. Like, just mix it up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of with you on that. It's just a lot to ask, especially of you guys, to have to prep for 30 fighters. And a lot of, especially in this era, we're getting guys and gals coming in on 2-3 days notice who are rookies, who are coming in for the very first time. So now we sort of got to change the playbook, if you will.
No, I mean, I remember when we had Wednesday night shows back in the day. That was fun, and I think really enjoyable for a lot of fans, especially when you still got a card on Saturday. But obviously, there's some challenges and budgetary concerns when it comes to putting on a live event. So you can understand why they would do 15 and not 8, maybe midweek or on a Thursday or Friday night. And now that we're talking about it, Mick Maynard and Sean probably going to give me fucking 16 fights. So we should probably
have your business with me.
Touche. We'll move on. Last year, there was so much controversy around the breakout fighter of the year, because you and I talked about this. Our consensus choice was Khamzat Chimaev over Kevin Holland. And I wrote that article, even though I didn't even vote for Khamzat, but I understand why people did. People were calling for my resignation, John, because I picked Khamzat over Kevin Holland. It was ridiculous. So because of that, we actually switched it up to like a rookie of the year category. But for the actual breakout fighter of the year, and I've thought about this a lot and how it can be interpreted in one's own mind, this might actually be the most interesting year ever for that topic, because you could go with a newcomer like a Casey O'Neill or a Manon Fiorot or a Bruno Silva, but you could also make the case for Charles Oliveira, for Brandon Moreno, Juliana Pena. You could even make a compelling case for Kamaru Usman being the breakout fighter of the year after leaving 2020 as the champion, but leaving the year and after the Masvidal fight, he had this moniker of being the boring wrestler. And then he goes out there and stops Gilbert Burns and he knocks Jorge Masvidal unconscious, which is something that just doesn't happen. And then he goes into the fire with Colby Covington with a really competitive fight. Who would you say is the actual breakout fighter of the year, the way you actually interpret it?
Well, right. It's all open to interpretation. It depends what your criteria is and how you define breakthrough, right? Oftentimes on like the Anakin Florian Podcast Awards, I might just be looking to give a guy a trophy, right? So if Brandon Moreno doesn't get submission of the year, maybe he becomes my breakthrough fighter of the year, and you make a case sort of around that, But Khamzat Chimaev is probably the guy I'm going to settle on. I might have given him the award last year, but he has continued to break through in an exceptional way. I don't know how many appearances he made this year. I think Sean O'Malley is certainly worthy in that category. I like Rookie of the Year because it's clearly defined. 2021, they had to have made their UFC debut in that calendar year. And even though Paddy Pimblett and Ian Gary both got tested, I think – again, that Rookie of the Year can be open to interpretation, right? Some people could say, how is Ian Gary your Rookie of the Year? And it's like, well, a lot of it has to do with upside, but it has to do with the nature of his win and the nature of his post-fight interview and what I perceive his upside and his appetite for MMA growth to be. So, I guess I'll say Khamzat Chimaev. And when you get on the Khamzat train, as you know, everybody's pissed off. So, and Bilal Muhammad could certainly be breakthrough fighter of the year. I actually took off my Bilal t-shirt before this interview because I didn't want to piss anybody off. Khamzat Chimaev, breakthrough fighter of the year for 2021.
That's so wild, man. Because he was such a clear answer last year, and then he just sort of faded away as the sport goes away. He was dealing with a horrible bout of COVID, and he just sort of fell off the face of the earth after being so active the year before, and then he just has one fight against Li Jingliang and puts on a performance like that, like picking that man up and just like having conversations with Dana White while he's got this man hoisted up in the air, and then just runs through him. Like, it was just, he might actually be the breakthrough fighter of the year with only having one fight.
Well, the thing is, if you're asking me, like, what am I, when I did the best of 2020 show for the UFC, and we didn't do one this year, but last year when we did one, we all got asked in closing, what's our dream fight in any division for 2022? And at this time a year ago, I said Khamzat Chimaev versus Colby Covington. And now it looks like that might actually happen. It took a while, didn't happen in the year that I expected it might happen because of a lot of circumstances, but like, that's the dream fight. And as I spin it forward to next year, Khamzat, Merab, as I mentioned, these are the athletes that I'm most looking forward to seeing them test themselves against the true divisional elite. And hopefully Merab gets that opportunity because I think he's the candy man for a lot of people at 135 pounds.
Saying that about Merab for a really, really long time. There's lots of interesting fights for him, guys like Ricky Simone, etc. You mentioned Colby, and I actually I spoke with Colby a couple weeks ago. Of course, Colby was being Colby, but he kind of like broke through the gimmick a little bit, and he pitched this idea of doing like a best of 7 series with Kamaru Usman. He said they're so closely matched, and even though Usman's up 2-0 on the scorecards, there's people out there who thought Colby won the second fight, and I feel like even now, I mean, Chimaev could change things up pretty quickly, but I think Usman, Covington, they're the two best welterweights in the world until something drastically changes. If it's not that one, John, is there like a pairing, a rivalry that you'd love to see some sort of championship series of some kind in the UFC? Like, I know this isn't Major League Baseball or the NBA and the schedules be damned and all that stuff, but what do you think? Is there like a certain rivalry right now that you're like, man, I could watch these guys fight every 3 months and not have to fight anybody else?
Well, the next main event that I am charged with calling is Francis Ngannou against Cyril Gane. And give me 7 of those, right? But yeah, that's interesting coming from Colby Covington, because while I do agree with you that he and Kamaru are 1 and 2 in the world right now with respect to, Khamzat and everybody else, right? But you have Leon Edwards, right, who deserves his respect and at least his opportunity. You have Bilal Muhammad, who has 1 loss in his last 12 walks to the octagon. So time to remember the name. If you didn't have these guys with worthy resumes, I can understand why there would be some sort of foundation for a 7-game set, or even, giving Colby a third crack right now. But I think there are big fights out there for Covington, and because the cupboard is not bare at all, I'd like to see Leon get a crack, if I'm being honest, and I think Leon probably will be next.
Yeah, it'd be kind of a shame at this point, unless like Usman's just gonna sit out for an extended period of time and spend time with his family, which as active as he's been, I would have no issue with that at all. And if the UFC just wanted to throw an interim title out there, just basically as a number 1 contender fight, and you did like Leon versus Chimaev, I'd be fine with that, as long as there's a belt attached and guarantees him the Usman fight after that.
Yeah, no, people get so bent out of shape about interim titles. I agree with you. Sometimes it's just a placeholder and not that big a deal. The Cyril Gane thing, notwithstanding, I didn't love the way that, but in certain situations, not a huge deal. But I think Kamar will be back, and we shall see. But a lot of good things ahead at 70 for sure.
This was a really interesting year for the commentary unit as well, because, this, there's all the Joe Rogan questions that you still have to answer, I'm sure. You saw the pre-fight sort of drama between Dominic Cruz and DC. I'm sure you love to talk about that. But at the same time, we saw some new faces on the studio desk. You mentioned Bilal Muhammad. We saw Laura Sanko get her shot on the Contender Series as a commentator. Hopefully we get to see her on an actual broadcast for the UFC in 2022. But I'm curious, sitting alongside and even watching when you can, who you thought grew the most from like a commentary standpoint in 2021 from a broadcasting perspective. Because all the guys, DC, Felder, Cruz, Bisping, they've all made strides from the previous year in their own way. But who did you see this year that was like, boom, this guy took such a big leap forward as a professional broadcaster?
That's a great question, and it's hard for me to single out a man or a woman. A quick rip, I would say certainly I have said to Laura Sanko that all she needs is an opportunity on a UFC fight night, and I think she will shine, and I think she will become a staple. Anthony Smith comes to mind. I remember coming across him calling fights when I was watching like Jason Witt film, and I was like, man, this guy's good. Like Anthony Lionheart Smith should be calling fights. And then I got a chance to work with him on the ESPN desk. And I just think he's sensational and a great sort of juxtaposition counterplay with Chael Sonnen. So I thought Lionheart really emerged. Certainly nice to see Angela Hill and Bilal Muhammad get their opportunities. Chael Sonnen remains just special. People ask, man, how do you call 15 fights and go up and do the post show afterwards? Chael Sonnen is how. Chael Sonnen's energy is how. So I could go on all day. Daniel Cormier prepares more than he's given credit, that's for sure. Dominic Cruz, one of my best friends in the world. Excited for him to get back on a microphone. Felder's my boy, Rogan, on and on it goes. I love all these men and women. And, as much as I enjoyed Brian Stan, or Kenny Florian as my primary broadcast partner back in the day, I've sort of wrapped my head and my goodwill around the fact that I'll probably have 25 different combinations when all said and done, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Michael Chiesa is really good too.
Chiesa, hopefully he gets a chance to call fights for sure. Jesus, how could I leave out Michael Chiesa? You're going to get me in trouble. No, Chiesa's a stud, absolutely, and is just rabid in terms of his interests in MMA, which we love.
Yeah, I actually think Paul Felder was always a natural at it. Like he went in there and just such a brilliant mind. But I think this year, like he broke through, like he broke the wall. It was just like, he's comfortable. He's got his own style now. Like you could have just thrown him in there on a day's notice and he would have done just fine. But now I feel like the confidence is there. I feel like he's flowing well. He's got good camaraderie with everybody. I feel like everybody has their own strength in that booth. Every combination is different, but I think this was the year of Paul Felder in terms of broadcasting.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason he broke through, as you're sort of putting it, is because he leaned into the comedy a little bit and just leaned into being himself. And part of that is just repetitions. If you go back and watch the first fights that Dominic Cruz called or Daniel Cormier called, I remember rehearsing walks in hotel rooms with these guys, as they had some anxiety about those first repetitions, and so much of it is about reps and just finding yourself and finding your voice. I don't want to go back to 2012 and listen to my first UFC telecast. Never mind my Bellator calls in 2009. Thankfully, that promotion has seemingly purged all of my audio, but it doesn't sound great, Michael. So I think Paul really came into his own, and he's a funny prick when he wants to be. I hope he continues to let it rip.
Love the calling out the USA chant moment during Bilal Muhammad's fight with Stephen Thompson. That was tremendous stuff.
Oh, yeah. I love when he gets hostile.
It's great. It's so great. A few last things. I appreciate the time as always. What's the most intriguing question you have for the UFC in 2022? Whether it's division or what you giving the arms here? What is it? What is it?
Well, I mean,
tell the people.
People bang on me and, me and Dana because they think there's some agenda with Khamzat Chimaev. Largely, we're just going by what we've seen with our own eyes. My big question was, how many times could he make 170 pounds? Was he long for this division? And even though the weight cut was a little bit dicey, I have more conviction now in his ability to make the weight than I did before. I just do. And it seems like his coaches have him of a singular mind that he is chasing welterweight contention and not going to be dicking around at middleweight, So yeah, my burning question is Khamzat Chimaev as elite as he seems to be, as strong and dangerous as he seems to be, and can he work himself into a fight with a guy in Kamaru Usman who's something like 15-0 in the UFC and one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. So that's sort of at the tip of my tongue right now. Bantamweight, very excited to see that. It's crazy that Max Holloway has not been a champion for all this time. So I'm excited to see him and Volkanovski fight for a third time. Alex obviously has taken it to a whole new level. Adesanya Whitaker too. I can't wait, bro. I cannot wait. But Khamzat's the burning question for me.
Why have they not booked this Chimaev-Neil Magny fight? Like, what is going on here? Neil Magny has been screaming from the rooftops for like 18 months. Give me Chimaev. Give him to me. And everyone keeps saying, oh, no one wants to fight this guy. He's been saying it for like 18 months. Give me him. He's still saying it. And Chimaev's calling back at him. Like, why have we made this fight? Is it just we think he's a top, like, we just got to throw him in there with the top 5 guy at this point? Like, I get that if that's where you're going with this, but he's calling for it. Why don't we just give it to him?
Can I plead the fifth? No, I don't know why he hasn't gotten the fight. I mean, I kind of felt like if Bilal, after beating Stephen Wonderboy Thompson the way he did, had gotten on the mic and instead of maybe called for a title shot or called for other fights, had just ignored the question and looked into the camera and said, Khamzat Chimaev, let me feel how strong you are, bro. Let's go. See you in February, 5 rounds, at altitude or otherwise. Let's go. And I think he would have gotten that fight,
100%.
Now, he has certainly maximized his time on social media, has Muhammad since, but I certainly think that there is a more direct approach to getting that fight. You could ask, why aren't they making that fight? Both guys seemingly calling for that fight too. So clearly they got something going on with Khamzat Chimaev, and most of the MMA world eagerly anticipates his next matchup.
Yes, I agree. I said exactly the same thing a couple of weeks ago. I really wish he took that opportunity then to get in the camera and just be like, Chimaev, let's go. And yeah, we'd probably be talking about him fighting Chimaev, already booked on the books, ready to go. Couple of last things. John Madden, man. I feel like every time we talk, like an iconic sports broadcaster passes away either the day before or 2 days before. Doc Emmerich was the last time we spoke, and now John Madden, the legend, passes away. I didn't even know what a turducken was until I watched John Madden do Thanksgiving football games with Pat Summerall. And of course, he called the first Patriots Super Bowl win in 2001 that just blew me away. And he questioned Tom Brady. Oh, why are they going for this? They should just go. And then they kick the field goal and win the game. Like, John Madden, the video game, everything. How did you react to that? And, were you a big fan of John Madden?
Well, I think we were all deeply saddened, especially because it seemed unexpected. It seemed like even though at 85 years old that he was doing pretty well, and it kind of came out of nowhere and was sudden. But what an icon, right? Iconic is probably the appropriate adjective, even though it almost doesn't feel big enough. Legendary doesn't feel big enough. And certainly as somebody who has now called, or voiced video games for EA Sports, that was obviously a big part of my connection to Madden, right? Growing up playing Madden. And then obviously as a commentator, just as good as it gets, and anyone who grew up with the NFL in their homes, the way you did, the way I did in the 1970s and the 1980s and 90s, he was just a fixture. So no, it's an unquantifiable loss. And again, Bill Belichick, who we talk about and we put on a pedestal, he's all about like, how much do you love football? Do you love football? That's like the big thing when they're drafting guys. And I'm not sure anybody love football as much as Madden. So yeah, indelible imprint. And, hopefully my son will have some idea at 3 years old now, but of what John Madden was all about, because he will be missed, that's for sure.
And then last question from me, sir. You've done it all. The schedule's been crazy and you're out there doing the damn thing. What's your broadcast resolution for 2022? Like, is there anything you're probably like myself, worst self-critic, our own worst. It's hard to go back and like listen to these things because we pick them apart. But is there something that you want that you feel like you need to improve on, or something you want to fix, or some goal you want to set for yourself in 2022 from a professional standpoint?
Well, it's a good question, because one of our producers, Mike Ricci, asked me recently, like, are we challenging you enough? Sort of as the lead play-by-play announcer, are we challenging you enough? And it made me think about, how challenging these live events are. And every one of them has their unique challenges formatically when it comes to sponsors and different deliveries, different elements off the top of the show that we might be doing. I guess it's just always striving for that perfect show. And certainly you can argue that for me to go do pro football would be a real way to challenge myself, but I guess for me, it's just that striving for that perfect show, because we haven't had one and we haven't necessarily been close. You know what I mean? So there's always room for improvement. Every time we sort of have any sort of traffic jam, like we're trying to have a no hitter, and sometimes I'll joke with the truck when we lose it, I'll be like, we just lost the no hitter, boys, and I'll hit that talkback button, So I always tell Kenny Florian, like, the hardest thing we have to do is like listen back to ourselves on the podcast if we really want to get better and be more concise. And I guess it's always about being more concise, continuing to, provide the best possible soundtrack for the championship moment specifically, and not step on anybody's dick in the process,
Yeah, great resolution, John. I appreciate it. This has been too long since we've been able to do this. What do we do was this the award show week for Anakin Florian?
So we just taped an interview with JC Santana, strength and conditioning coach for Gilbert Durino Burns. We're dark next week, and the awards will be January 10th, in addition to our UFC Fight Night Cater versus Chikadze preview. So off and running, but we have next week off, and largely because my kids are off. So we're going to go try to not contract COVID-19 in South Florida.
Oh, yeah, one last thing.
Yeah.
Our good friend Ian Parker. Look at this guy. Look at this guy making moves on ESPN, on these broadcasts, doing shows for UFC cards. What has that been like for you? I thought about you as soon as I saw that news, and it couldn't have gone to a much more deserving person than Ian Parker. This is a guy that's been grinding away in all facets of MMA for so long, and to see him get his opportunity, man, it just feels good. I was very, very happy for the man.
Yeah, it's great. Our podcast, as humbly as we can say it, has been a launching pad, for handicapping types in the MMA space. And even though that wasn't necessarily Ian's intention, I think largely he wanted to sort of be the third personality on our show, which Longo had held down. But yeah, I feel great for him. Obviously, he's a sharp MMA handicapper, and ESPN got a good one for sure.
John, appreciate you very much. Enjoy the rest of your time with the family on this break, and Happy New Year, man. Looking forward to seeing you back behind the microphone in 2022, my man.
Always good to catch up with you, man. It actually gets my gears going a little bit. So we will see you in a few weeks from
Easy teleport, Deva? EuroAion guide your path.
Hey, this is Redman coming to you live from Vulcan Gas Company here in Austin, Texas. For a brand new episode of Kill Tony, give it up for Tony Hinchcliffe.
Fuck yeah, people. Come on, Austin. We need to make a lot of noise so the people at home. Fuck yeah. We're back. It's Brian Redban, everybody.
Hey,
Make some noise for him.
Safe travels.
And how about a hand for the band, everyone? That is the Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey Kill Tony Band. That's the great Michael Gonzalez on drums there, Matt Mueling on guitar, D Madness on the bass, and the great John Dees on the keys. This is Kill Tony Live, brought to you by the Yellow Rose and the Red Rose, the two best strip clubs in all of America. Just so happen to be here in Austin, Texas. How exciting is that? Sometimes I go there just for the hamburgers. A lot of people don't know this.
Oh,
They have
great food, yeah.
World-class hamburgers. Yeah. D Madness, you ever been to a strip club before?
Yes. Do they let you in for free? Like,
What do? Do you just like, you just sniff them or something like that?
he's allowed
Oh,
to touch.
shit. All right. Oh, yeah, you're allowed to touch. Okay. You know what? I might play that. I might pretend to be blind next time I go to one of those places. I swear I have to feel.
The poor girl with lipstick, he's just touching her face and it's just spreading lipstick all over her face.
All right. Anyway. This is also brought to you by Blue Norther Vodka Seltzer, a local company, as is the great CM Smokehouse and unbelievable barbecue over at Bolden Acres. We have joke books custom made by Boneseye, local artist, a former taxidermist turned joke book maker. Follow him on Instagram at Boneseye with a Z in the middle. And the great Ryan J. Ebelt is drawing tonight's episode live from Los Angeles as we speak. So, with that said, here's a little bit more about the amazing sponsors that made tonight's episode available for you, the listener, for free right now. You know, it's a new year, beautiful 2022, and I am looking to accomplish all of my New Year's resolutions. And how am I doing that? By making sure that I stay hydrated this year, all year long. My most hydrated year ever, thanks to my favorite hydration product, Liquid IV. One stick of Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates faster and more efficiently than water alone, and I'm telling you, man, you can feel it. You can literally feel it. Makes you feel good, like 10, 20 minutes. It's crazy. They have incredible flavors like watermelon, lemon lime, strawberry, pina colada, and more. I use it all the time when I'm golfing, and as of late, when I'm on a drinking bender, which has been quite often. Redban? Redban, you know about all this shit.
Yeah, and you know, especially with New Year's, man, I'm going to have a bunch of Liquid IV before I go to bed on New Year's Eve and New Year's morning. I love it right before bed. I love all the new flavors. Cherry's back. If you haven't tried cherry, I recommend it. Liquid IV contains 5 essential vitamins: B3, B5, B6, B12, and vitamin C.
I think I got bingo.
With 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks, which is crazy. This has 3 times the electrolytes? That's insane. Made with premium ingredients, non-GMO, and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. What makes Liquid IV so effective? Well, it's called CTT, that's Cellular Transport Technology. It's designed to enhance rapid absorption of water and other key ingredients into your bloodstream. And Liquid IV is on a mission to change the world. Liquid IV has donated 19 million servings globally.
Wow. So not only is it literally my favorite product that I use every day, but they're also good people, just like us.
Nice day,
Grab
isn't it?
Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 25% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code TONY at checkout. That's 25% off anything you order when you use promo code TONY at liquidiv.com. Experience better hydration today at liquidiv.com. Promo code TONY. You guys ready to start tonight's show or what? Huh? Great. We have a guest, as we do every week, always the funniest possible guest that we could possibly have in town. And this is the guest this week, ladies and gentlemen, a regular here on Kill Tony, known for his incredible roasting skills. This is David Lucas, everybody. Kill Tony vet, legend of the game. and my arch nemesis in roasting.
Yes, sir.
Over 15 hours of continuous roast jokes between me and this man. If you put them all together, it is a lot of roasting, but I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it is, bro.
You're out here killing it. You've been doing shows with Rogan and I every week here in town. You, of course, you're from on the All Deaf Digital platform.
Yes, sir.
You're when you're in LA, you're at the Comedy Store.
Yes, sir.
You're also famously the Mucinex man, so that's exciting. That must be a lot of money. Should call you David Mucus instead of David Lucas.
Tony thought he had Omicron and he had to do a booty swab.
Well, I do enjoy the testing process. When they offer me a booty swab, I'm always like,
He's like, I think I need an enema.
You son of a bitch. David, you know how this works. A bunch of comedians signed up in this bucket, tons and tons of names here. And if I pull their name out, they get 60 seconds uninterrupted to do stand-up comedy and make us laugh. You know your time is up when you hear the sound of a kitten. That means wrap it up then, or else you're going to bring out the angry West Hollywood bear. And then I interview them. I ask them a bunch of questions about their life, and we find out more about these people. Sometimes it's completely insane people. Sometimes it's an amazing local talent.
Easy teleport, Deva? Ion, guide your path.
Talent that's been waiting for the opportunity. You guys ready to start this fucking thing or what, huh? Before I go to that bucket, let's start with another regular. This guy was made a regular here in Austin, Texas. He kicks off every show now here. We watch him develop every week. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the one and only Hans Kim. Here we go. A brand new minute by Hans Kim. This is Kill Tony. One more time for Hans Kim, everyone. Come on.
Îți prezentăm noul program Poker Stars Rewards. Când tu te implici, noi suntem all in. Pentru mai multă valoare cu până la 65% înapoi. Pentru mai multă transparență, astfel încât să vezi ce obții. Și pentru mai multe moduri de a câștiga în toate jocurile noastre. Participi și tu?
Hey, what's up, guys? I grew up Christian as an Asian person, which is kind of weird because the people who wrote the Bible didn't even seem to know that Asians existed. They could even drop us a line. Hey, Asians, great job in inventing fireworks and the compass. Back to the Jews, my favorites. Some people say that the Bible is the good book. I think Old Man and the Sea is better. What kind of book introduces the main character 2/3 of the way into the story and then kills him off 4 times in a row? The rest of the book is just fan fiction. I'm an atheist now because I think it'd be stressful to have an ideology that could be destroyed by facts. You're walking down the street like, oh shit, a fossil, fuck. I guess I could have been blowing dudes this whole time. All right, that's my time. Thank you very much.
Wow. Amazing. Every week, a brand new minute. You'd think that's easy. It is not, but you make it look that way, Hans, and that's incredible.
Thank you, Tony.
You're welcome, Hans. How you been doing? What's going on in life? What's happening? Good material, love it, good stuff. You did that.
I did the move from the van to the apartment, and then I moved from an apartment to a house that I'm house sitting.
Wow.
The general manager of Rogan's new club, Curtis, generously offered his house to me.
A lot of information you gave there. You going to give out the address as well? Perhaps people after the show want to swing by the general manager of the Comedy Store's house that he's nice enough to let you stay at because you sleep in a van.
And was this the same house you just did a live stream podcast at, and you had like 14 people in your kitchen? Like you had a party at this house that our friend let you stay in?
Yeah.
Wow. You had a party and you live streamed it?
Yes.
Oh shit, Hans, you're sort of dumb. It's incredible. So smart, yet there's just something missing there. How was this party for you? What did you do? Did you do any drugs?
We did marijuana.
Ooh. Somebody call the police on this fucking guy. Marijuana, look out.
Yeah. I mean, I did some upstairs, too, in the green room.
Oh, shit. They're here. They're pulling up. Marijuana, did you drink that night?
No.
Did you hook up with the girl at all?
No, not at all.
Wow. What was the girl-to-guy ratio at this 14-person blowout?
Her name is Candace Medina. She's very funny.
Oh, what's her social security number? Again, we have to make the sound effect of Hans saying, I think I said too much.
Yeah.
He said it a couple weeks ago. It was pretty amazing. David, you know Hans. What do you think about this guy?
Hey, man, you're going to have to hang with me, bro.
I would love to.
Because, dog, you just passing out girls' names, are you?
She's a local comedian.
Yeah, bro. I mean, but still, the chances you fucking her is high. So you got to keep it a secret, man, so you can get other bitches.
That's true.
Yeah, you don't want to tell. You don't want to tell it, bro. You gotta hang with me a little more, bro. You gotta stop hanging with these open micers. You don't kill Tony now, dog.
What made you say her name? What's your relationship with this young lady?
She's a local comedian. She loves Catan.
Did you say loves to tan?
Yeah, Settlers of
Like
Catan.
lay out in the sun?
No, the board game Settlers of Catan.
Oh, wow, what a dork. Wow. I got a little dizzy there. That was incredible. Not used to talking with dorks, so like my brain had to really do a dance there to understand the fuck you're talking about.
It's called Catan.
Yeah, it's white people shit.
I know white people shit, but that's below white people. That's
yeah.
That's white people. I know Magic the
If Matt
Gathering.
Muelling says it's white people shit, it's white people shit. Look at this guy over here. Really stands out as the dominant white guy in the band.
Yeah.
Oh shit. D Madness thought he was something else the whole time. God damn it. D Madness thought he was hanging out with an Asian guitar player this entire time. Absolutely incredible. What else has been going on, Hans? You been doing karaoke or anything like that?
I have been just not doing shitty open mics. Been living in the house, just loving the home life. Not being in a van is pretty sweet. I've also kind of got freaky with a lady on last Monday.
Ooh, freaky with a lady. Tell us more.
She was like, "Hey, can I come over?" I was like, "Sure." And
wow,
then,
what'd you guys do? Play Risk together?
we watched StarCraft 2.
Oh,
are you?
And that's what it's gonna be.
Word.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up NIMS.
Shout out
Fuck your
to
life,
NIMS.
Gorilla NIMS.
Coney Island.
Yeah.
Bing
it's,
bong.